Welcome back to the class, everyone. We have a hot new kit that just dropped right now. Admiral Raddus is coming to the game. Not to be confused with the ship, not the fleet commander, Admiral Haldo, that has the Raddus ship, but this is the actual playable character that was seen highly in Rogue One that was very important on the Battle of Scarif. But that being said, let's go ahead and look into this kit. I want to take apart a little bit about what his place in the game is going to be, how effective he is going to be in GAC, if he has more than just one home, and really what we're all already thinking: when is the capital ship coming? Like that has to be the focal point really of all of this, because while he's kind of cool and his kit is cool, I mean, it's in his name, Admiral. There is something more coming here, and we're going to take a look at that. So first up, let's digest this kit a little bit as is, without any really speculation. He is going to be a Rogue One leader. I'm not going to call him really a Rebel leader. There's not really a lot in this kit that is specific to Rebel. He has actually some specific light side synergy, but it's mostly going to be Rogue One. And this is really where CG has been turning for the last, I want to say, 6 months now. They've just specifically been trying to find these little pocket factions that are honestly quite useless and giving them actually something to work with. They may not be the best competitive team in the game, but they're at least usable. We can see, I mean, useless is not the word I would use to describe them at all, but we very recently had another character come and do this for a different, sub-faction, and that was the Imperial Troopers with Iden. Iden came in and she revolutionized, really, the non-lead and the non-droid troopers, which was really a really sad bunch, like Snow Trooper and Magma. I mean, they had their niche uses here and there, but they weren't doing a whole lot of stuff. So that being said, that's really his place is going to be with Rogue One. As to the actual team he's going to be with, the only one that I can say for certain that we has to have is Jin. And not just because he has direct synergy, and we'll get to that, but there's some other stuff in here too that I think is going to be really, really important to have extra revives. So that's his character. Let's go ahead and digest his kit a little bit. We're not going to do everything. His basic is a basic. We're not even going to read it. Not going to do much. The second ability, pretty much the big takeaway here is it gives the spark of rebellion, and this is really going to be his big drawing point outside of the actual lead and what we're going to call his ultimate ability. It gives 40% offense and 30 speed. When this character attacks, they recover 20% health and protection, so that's a lot of survivability. That's very, very good. Empire enemies defeated by this character while buff is active can't be revived. A spark of rebellion is dispelled, gain 40% turn meter. So already immediately we're seeing a call out to the main team that this is meant to build. I do think there will be a little bit of wiggle room for some other stuff, but the main team this team is made to build is going to be Iden. We already previously mentioned her. It's just the only Empire team that has a consistent amount of revives. There are other ways to revive other Empire characters, yes, but this is the big one. This is the relevant one too. While Wampa can eat most people's items, not everyone has Wampa. Not everyone has Wampa to use against that team. I know I've been in a GAC match before where I'm like, okay, I have to use Wampa to beat C, so now what beats Iden? And then I end up going to General Grievous, and then General Grievous loses. It's just like, this is, while maybe not be the most versatile counter in the world, it looks like a good solution to something. Continuing on here with the rest of his abilities, this helps get him towards his ultimate. We're not going to read too much into that. And now let's give a little bit of a review on his Omicron. His Omicron honestly kind of seems, if I had to rank it at a 1 out of 10, I'd give it a 4. It reminds me very, very, very much of the Dash Omicron, in the sense that Dash is a very good character. It's a very good team. But the Omicron is almost situational, and let's actually go ahead and read it just to get into that. Rogue One allies gain 40% max protection. That's not situational, that's just good. At the start of the battle, Rogue One allies gain Spark of Rebellion for 3 turns, also very good, because that pretty much means, combined with this starting speed, if you do a full Rogue One squad, you're going to be starting with 70 speed, which helps them get closer to the new speed meta in the game. I don't think it's exactly enough to get them right to the top. Like, it's not enough to quite counteract Kyle Katarn, who can start pretty easily at 400. It's not enough to stop Mara Jade, who can stop at like start at 420. It's not enough to beat Hux, who can easily start at like 430. So I don't mean to be a downer, but this doesn't look like it's going to come in and just beat everything. It looks like it's going to beat some things, but it's not quite tuned to the highest ability. But back to the Omicron itself. When Spark of the Rebellion is dispelled on an ally, they gain critical chance, crit damage, defense up, health up, offense up, potency and protection up for 2 turns. Really, really good. and Spark of Rebellion is probably going to be getting dispelled pretty consistently. The only issue with this is if you don't have an enemy that dispels a lot or like constantly, and or they just have buff immunity or something like that, or they can dispel it twice, like you'll come in and you'll have an enemy like Treya, for example. Cyan will rip it off everyone, and then, oh, yeah, everybody gets a buff, and then Treya isolates someone. That's gone. The cooldowns on Cyan's AoE go down. He gets to rip it off, everything off again. And or even like buff immunity from B2, this doesn't seem like too groundbreaking. It seems good. I definitely see there being squads where this just wrecks them, having all these offensive buffs in here. But at the same time, I don't think it massively changed its viability, but good. If I can get the squad built up, I might put it on. My Rogue One's pretty behind. But moving on to the rest of this, I'm not going to go into all about how he gets his ultimate. Let's just say that he does. This is really where he gets good. He unlocks the ability Hope if he's able to get this whole upload-download process done. And this is huge. They recover 100% health and protection, so this is pretty much like Starkiller's ultimate. Deal true damage to all enemies and inflict protection, disruption, and healing immunity for 4 turns, which can't be dispelled, evaded, or resisted. This is the big part. This is huge. This is what you really need nowadays to have a modern kit, because there are so many kits that are just constantly dispelling everything on them, or resisting, or evading, or what have you. There's so many things going on. Having this, being able to put protection disruption so they can't gain any type of protection, and healing immunity for 4 turns is pretty much a death sentence. If you can survive to this point, granted, as long as the team isn't something like a Galactic Legend, but if you can survive to this point with all of this, the protection disruption and healing immunity, you are very, very likely going to win the battle. Like, this is a game-changing, again, it's not an ultimate, we're going to call it an ultimate ability. This is very, very good. And the reason, and I said it before about team comps, why this is important, is because if we go back up here, Jhin, she cannot be killed while Admiral Raddus is still alive. It says right here, she can't be defeated. This is really, really good because she herself also has revive abilities. So between the two of them, you have quite a bit of survivability to be able to get to that ultimate. And I think that is going to be very, very important. So overall, I like the kit. I think it's going to have a huge use against Iden. Oh, I missed the biggest thing about Iden. Completely skipped over this. His leadership. This one line here, this is really all that matters. When an Empire ally gains bonus turn meter, they are inflicted with daze for 2 turns. Goodbye, Iden. They are constantly not wanting to be dazed, and this is going to keep it on them consistently. Like I was saying about Hope, this is a very modern game mechanic that is going to bypass a lot of the power creep that has come into the game so far, being able to constantly put it on them every single time they gain bonus turn meter. Because anytime you're assisting, they're gaining bonus turn meter, and then not only can they not gain more bonus turn meter, but on top of that, they're not going to be able to counter. And I've unfortunately had some really rough run-ins with Iden counters. So that is pretty large. The issue is, and this is really why I think the squad is going to be very limited, is it's whenever an Empire enemy gains bonus turn meter. And this is actually very good for Empire, or bad for Empire, because their 3 main squads, discounting Lord Vader, run heavily off a turn meter. Iden, Imperial Troopers, the more the Veers Piet side, as well as Emperor Palpatine, they all really, really want to be gaining turn meter the entire time, and this really shuts them down. My issue with this is, it really puts them in a box. And this was my big fear with Iden Versio when she came out. I was like, okay, I don't want to have to gear up these garbage Imperial Troopers just so that I can beat only a Mon Mothma team. And I ended up being very, very wrong about that, because when you look up Iden's kit, it isn't, she does have some stuff that's specific to Rebel, but her big thing where if they attack at a turn, they gain 10% health and protection and 10% turn meter, that is not faction specific at all, which gives them a lot of durability and a lot of viability against a huge amount of squads. I don't see this necessarily here with our Admiral Raddus. I think he's going to be very limited in his viability outside of Empire teams, which isn't really great because Palpatine and Veers really weren't normal defensive teams. Iden can beat a lot of stuff on offense. So it's cool that Rogue One is getting use and they're getting a faction and they're getting they're getting a team, but at the same time, I'm very skeptical as how good this is going to be. I do think, and I'll mention this and this just briefly, just because I might just be totally wrong, but I'm thinking this might have just a little bit of viability against Starkiller. The really popular comp right now for Starkiller is Emperor Palpatine and Mara Jade, and there also involves revives on that team. So we have a way around that. We kind of make Visas completely useless by getting rid of the revives. Not completely useless, her defense penetration is still good, but definitely hampers a little bit of what she's able to do by not allowing Empire characters to revive. But at the same time, like this is a really big handicap. This whole they're inflicted with daze for 2 turns, because the Starkiller team is immune to daze. So this would have been perfect. Like this would have been a really good counter to Starkiller had Starkiller not been immune to daze. So it is kind of rough. The only like glimmer of hope is the ability hope. If you can somehow live long enough, if the AI just plays like garbage and just keeps attacking Jin over and over and over again, and Admiral Raddus gets to live long enough to be able to pull this ability off, then maybe like you just revive everyone and you just slaughter Starkiller. But that's, I mean, that sounds like a bigger clinch fest than Night Sisters versus General Grievous. So it is a possibility. Now, let's move a little bit into speculation here. Developer insights. So I might be reading too much into this, but it looks like there's a lot of drops to this fleet coming out. So the first thing that needs to be mentioned, that I think is the biggest giveaway, is the upload ability. Why is the upload ability such, for me, why is it such a huge giveaway? Because of this guy right here, Outrider. Outrider has specific mechanics that already are dealing with something called download. It doesn't seem like an accident that they put them in there together. And to me, it seems like a huge hint that these two are going to have synergy together once we get Admiral Raddus's capital ship. I believe it's called the Profundity. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. You guys can correct me in the chat. But yeah, I believe because of this ability download here, this is a pretty large hint that these two are going to have very, very strong synergy. In reality, what this is going to be is this is going to be a Rebel faction, or Rebel fleet rather, 2.0, where it's not just going to be Akbar and Millennium Falcon, but it's going to be, again, whatever Admiral Raddus's fleet is called, along with the Outrider and several other ships. Probably very likely going to be a counter to Executor, because we're kind of moving into that time frame right now. So that is, I think, again, so I think the upload download kind of thing, that is the first very, very big hint. But there's also just, look at this. They're mentioning how Dash Rendar is coming in and giving new life to the solo squad. Tons of squads have done that recently. We've mentioned Iden about 4 or 5 times now, as well as Kyle Katarn going and doing that with Rebel fighters, or Talon going and doing it with Traya, or Mara Jade going with Palp. Why did they single out Dash? Again, that just seems to me like he's coming in here and he's going to have a bigger impact on fleet. And then again, they just keep mentioning. They keep mentioning all, and I get it, he's an admiral. They're going to keep mentioning his ship stuff, but like Blue Squadron were the only starfighters able to make it through the planetary shield and Scarab. Like, these seem like clear indicators that something larger is coming with air support. I know they're referencing to his ability here, but that just seems like kind of an excuse for me. And then, yeah, they actually mention by name the download mechanic with Dash's Outrider. So, yeah, this just seemed, I would be very, very shocked if we do not get a Rebel Fleet 2.0. Maybe just an advancement of what we have, or maybe just a complete add-on to what we do have now, just to bring it to the next level. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. I think he's going to be a little bit of a box on ground, but usable. And for any Rogue One fans, this is very exciting. And ultimately, I think the real prize is coming with the fleet. But that is going to be it for today, guys. Remember to like and subscribe. And as always, stay awesome.